Please welcome Kesha. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you, Hunter?
I'm so good. I'm so good. Where are you calling in from
Good.
today?
I'm calling in from Marietta, Georgia, which is right outside of Atlanta.
Oh, lovely. How's the
Yeah.
weather? How is it? Is it humid yet?
Not yet. We actually had a,
Good.
a, a cool snap, so it's starting to
Oh,
warm
okay.
back up a little bit, but we have plenty of pollen.
I love that. So, Keisha, before we jump into the chat here, I'd love to hear just a little bit about yourself and your overall career journey, if you could just share with us.
Absolutely. So I'm Kesha Landrum. I live in Marietta, Georgia, as I just mentioned, which is about 25 miles northwest of Atlanta. Live with my husband and my 13-year-old daughter, who keeps me up to date on all the latest things and is trying to make me a Swiftie. When I'm not, she's trying real hard. When I'm not working, I am decorating and redecorating spaces in my home. I love making things
Mm,
both practical
you and
and
my mom would
pretty.
really get along.
Oh
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
I never get bored with that.
Yeah, yeah.
um, and in terms of my career, I've been a project program manager for most of my career. Started out at UnitedHealth Group doing national account implementations. Did a short stint as a Six Sigma Black Belt and then a much longer stint as a project and program manager. Currently, I lead a team of project and program managers, a very talented team, and they support the behavioral health business. And then I also support the behavioral health business as a portfolio manager. And
Mm,
then, Hunter, a quick fun fact about me.
yes, please.
So, one of my first jobs was in an equestrian therapy program for those with intellectual disabilities. So,
Oh.
during that summer, this was during high school, we could pick from maybe one of 10 programs. And I'll tell you, equestrian therapy was not the first one on my list. I grew up in Northwest Florida where the summers are really hot and really humid. So if you know anything about me, Hunter, I am indoorsy. I'm not outdoorsy.
Mm,
I want to
mm.
buy a shirt that says indoorsy. But by the end of that summer, I could muck a stall and I could wash and groom a horse. So I count it
Mm.
as one of my first outside of your comfort zone experiences.
Nice. So is the
Yeah,
therapy for the humans to be around the horses, or is there,
correct.
yeah, that's wonderful. That's
Correct.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are majestic animals, aren't they?
They're beautiful. Beautiful.
Yeah. I grew up in a rural part of stick with me, Los Angeles. I know that sounds like an oxymoron,
It does.
but it does exist. I grew up in the canyons and
Okay.
I actually took care of horses and I mucked out stalls as a kid
Nice.
growing
Okay.
up. Yeah, there was this white horse named Scamp was the horse that I really grew connected to and would take care of on a regular basis.
Okay. Very nice.
Yeah. So let's talk about how our soft skills can be our superpower and maybe just define a little bit what are soft skills in your opinion?
Sure. So you hear soft skills referred to as people skills or human skills. I even saw them referred to in my research as power skills, which I really
Mm,
love. So, just a few definitions. So, personality traits and abilities that individuals may innately possess, typically related to their personality or their character. They
mm,
can be a combination of people skills, social skills, communication skills, emotional intelligence, and personality traits. And then, lastly, personal attributes that enable someone to interact effectively and harmoniously with other people. So, bottom
mm.
line, soft skills are not what you know, but who you are, which can be informed by our gender, our culture, our race, even our birth order. All those things make us who we are. So, that's the definition of soft skills. And in
Yeah.
contrast,
I
your
was just
hard
taking stock of
skills,
my own when you were firing everything off. I was
oh
like,
yeah, oh
man,
yeah,
that,
so many
that,
soft
that.
skills. Hard skills are learned through education or hands-on experience. You know, they're concrete, they're measurable, they're usually tied to a specific job. For example, knowing how to speak a foreign language, knowing how to develop an app, knowing how to do a computer program, all those things are considered your hard skills. So in contrast.
Mm, mm. So, what do you think are which specific soft skills do you believe are the most critical for success in, today's rapidly evolving workplace?
Yeah, so there's no definitive list of soft skills. There are many of them. Um, I always saw communication mentioned and team building mentioned in all the lists of soft skills. But the World Economic Forum publishes a report called The Future of Jobs. So the last one they published was in 2023. So as part of that report, they survey global companies on the skills they request most in employees. So I'm going to go over the top five. So number one, analytical thinking.
Mm,
Number two, creative thinking.
mm,
Number three, resilience, flexibility, agility. Number four, motivation and self awareness. And then number five, curiosity and lifelong learning. So I'll go through those one more time. Analytical thinking, the ability to collect, organize, evaluate, and use information to get to the best possible solutions to address various problems. Creative thinking, number two, the ability to perceive the world in new ways, to find
mm,
hidden patterns, to make connections between things that don't seem to relate, and then to generate innovative solutions. Number three, resilience, flexibility, agility. So, resilience, the ability to recover quickly from setbacks and move on without losing a positive outlook. So, without losing a positive outlook, I think that's key to
hmm
resilience. And then flexibility and agility, the ability to pivot, embrace, and capitalize on change. Pivot, embrace, capitalize. Then motivation and self awareness, number four. Motivation, just your drive to achieve your goals, your work ethic. Self awareness, your emotional intelligence, the ability and willingness to accept and ask for feedback. And then curiosity and lifelong learning, number five. We know that learning spurs the exchange of ideas, it leads workers to interact better, and also fuels innovation. So, Hunter, anything in those top five surprising to you?
I liked asking for feedback. That's nice.
Mm-hmm.
That stood out to me. That was a little surprising because normally there's the quarterly reviews and that's just sort
Correct.
of part of the process, but actually being proactive in that process
Mm-hmm.
is, I think, really great advice because it also shows someone taking initiative, right? It's telling
I
of a
agree.
lot of other aspects there that you fired off in that list.
It really is. So I'll tell
Yeah.
you just to give you some context. I think the list was like 25 or 26 skills long. So
hmm
number 15 was AI and big data. Then number
hmm
18 was being multilingual. So the
Hmm.
top five are all your soft skills, your human
Mm.
skills, your people skills. So that's why I think they're a superpower.
Yeah, because those are potentially harder to learn.
Potentially, I would agree. I would
Yeah, you
agree.
can, right? It's possible.
You can absolutely improve your soft skills, but
Yeah.
they are harder. They are harder.
Yeah. So communication is a big one. That's being
Hmm.
able to communicate with people, receive communication in different ways, give communication in different ways. What are some of the most, I would say, like what makes someone an effective communicator or potentially someone that excels at communication in a hybrid work environment?
Yeah, so when I think about communication, I think about the five C's. So the first C is being concise. They don't need to write six paragraphs to convey their message. So they're concise, succinct. And then they're also concrete and clear. I know exactly why they're communicating that to me, and I know exactly what they're communicating. Another C is that they're considerate. So not only in the tone that they use, but they're considerate to the audience. What
Mm,
information does this particular audience need? And then they're confident in their communication, and that applies both written and verbal. So the 5 C's to me make an effective communicator. I will say in our virtual and hybrid world, I do think there's a couple of things we have to be aware of because we're looking at people on screens and their faces in boxes. So we have
Yeah.
to really be aware of our posture and our expressions. So one thing I learned about myself as we started using cameras more as part of
Hmm.
my job is that I tend to frown a lot. And it's not because I'm angry, it's just because I'm thinking and I'm
Right.
focusing. So I had to
Yeah.
learn how to control for that. As my friends say, I had to learn to fix my face and and not
You have
show up
some
with a
blunt
with a
friends, Keisha.
do.
Bless them,
I
bless them. We
do.
need blunt friends.
We do. But it's different when you're looking at faces in squares. Things tend to be a little bit exaggerated, right?
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah,
Yeah,
there's no hiding, right? Because we're
exactly.
now all ready for our close up, Mr. DeMille, because we are all right up in it.
That's exactly right. And then another thing we have to focus on when we're virtual or in a hybrid environment is, focusing more on actively listening. Of course, listening is a
Hmm.
part of communication as well. It's not the same as being, face to face with a person. We have, distractions in our virtual environment. So you have to make sure you
Right.
focus on actively listening.
Yeah, we have multiple screens. There's easy ways to make it look like you're listening, but you aren't. But guess what? We
That's
can
right.
still tell you're not listening.
Absolutely, we can. We certainly
Yeah.
can.
That gloss goes over the eyelids, and you're just like, where
Hmm.
is that person? Are they reading an email? What is
Yeah.
going on? Yeah.
You ask a question and they don't answer.
Yeah. Hello. Hello.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's so important. I love that list of C's. That's so clear and concise in itself.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we have clarity in communication, being concise. I think another thing that's really important is empathy. So what role do you
Absolutely.
see empathy being in leadership, or in the workplace in general?
I don't think you can be an effective leader without empathy. I
Hmm.
think it's the most important skill in leadership, and the research also shows this. Um, Teams feel more engaged when they feel like they can navigate the demands of both their professional and their personal life. I think empathy contributes to a positive workplace. I think all of us want to feel like somebody cares about us, our well being. All of us want to make sure we're seen and understood. I know personally, if I'm having a hard time, or I know of a colleague or a team member is having a hard time, that quick check-in means a lot,
Yeah,
goes a long way.
yeah.
Just, hey, how you doing? How things going? So I personally appreciate it. I think it's a must-have for leaders, and for everybody in organizations. I think it fosters teamwork. I think it fosters collaboration, and I think it ultimately feeds into overall organizational success. So it's critically important.
I completely agree. I think there's thankfully been a shift in what we view as being professional. And
Hmm.
I think there used to be an old stereotype of you just hold it together, you keep your,
Right.
head down, chin up, sort of bootstrappy mentality. And that doesn't work. That doesn't
No, it
work
doesn't.
anymore.
It really
And
doesn't.
like you said, just one little, how's it going? Because who knows what's going on? They could have a sick kid or a parent or someone
Hmm.
struggling. We have no idea unless we ask.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And in those moments, it feels like a relief, right? If someone's
It
checking in, they're like, "How
does.
you doing?" Like, "Oh, my day just got a little lighter because I'm not bottling it up and pretending I'm fine when I'm not."
It can completely, make a bad day better.
Hmm.
Just
Yeah,
those few words. How are you doing?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Simple. Are there
very.
other ways that you would suggest to people that are looking to improve this skill in the workplace? Because we don't want to go too far, right? We still want to respect people's boundaries. What's that navigation that you would suggest for folks?
I think how are you doing is a good entry point. You're not
Mhm.
asking too much. You're not asking about any specific situation. The person will tell you what they want to tell you, and
Mhm.
then depending on what they say to you, that might lead to further conversation. But I think just the simple how you're doing, it goes, I think that's it.
Yeah.
So, being able to kind of sense if something's wrong, I think you can work on. We're not robots. We're humans. We
Mhm.
have we are up and down the mood elevator depending on things going on at work, things going on personally. So you can develop a sense of kind of picking up if something's not quite right.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and then that person will tell you kind of what they want you to know, and you can dig deeper if needed.
Hmm. Yeah, that's great. So, for folks that perhaps are introverts and public speaking doesn't come naturally to them, or eye contact, connecting with other people, these might be difficult for some people that aren't inherent skills for them. What are ways that these folks can work on these skills?
So, Hunter, surprise, surprise, I'm an introvert. Public speaking used to terrify me.
Mm,
I would get in my own head about, why I shouldn't be speaking, why I had nothing to offer. But
mm,
fortunately, pretty early on in my career, um, I figured out that in order to advance, I was going to have to overcome that, and learn how to be comfortable being uncomfortable. I
mm.
never say I've conquered that fear because, of course, I'm nervous today. I can be nervous in a team meeting. Like, it never really goes
Mm,
away. I just know how to cope with it better. So
mm,
what I recommend to my fellow introverts, I read a book called The Introverted Leader. So that book focuses on capitalizing on some of our natural tendencies as introverts. Within that book, they talk about the 4 Ps, which are prepare, presence, push, and practice. So I know I'm not good off the cuff. It's not one of my strengths. So I tend to over prepare and I
mm.
practice a lot. I mean, again, it can be just for an internal team meeting. I just want to hear myself saying what I want to communicate. That helps me
Yeah.
feel more confident. And Hunter, ever since I learned that you were going to be hosting this session, I've been talking to you for a week. Just practice it in my house. My husband was like, "Who is Hunter?" But that helps
Well, I
me.
love our continual conversation, Keisha. Feel free to
Yes.
call me anytime.
That's one of my coping mechanisms.
Yeah.
And then lastly, I would say to introverts, you've got to just do it. Um,
Yeah.
Seek out low risk ways of practicing. That can be
Yeah.
small groups, that can be
Hmm.
within your personal life. But the more you do it, the more confident you become. Again, it doesn't completely go away. I wouldn't
Right.
ever tell anybody that, but it's like a muscle. It does get
Hmm.
stronger. Yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. As I learned doing a talk at Power to Fly, actually, a year or two ago, learned what I was live on a call, which is an ambivert, which is a bit of both,
Ah,
right?
okay.
I had never heard that word, and I was talking to someone, and they taught that to me, and was like, she started describing all the things, was like, that you're talking about me, that's me.
Ah,
Yeah.
ambivert. Okay.
Yeah, an ambivert. So I have tendencies with both because there's some things where I can
Mm,
show up and, be very confident and comfortable with something, but then there's other parts where I need to be completely in my own world. And if I'm outside of that, it can be very challenging for me at times.
okay.
And learning those coping skills, like you talked about,
Mm-hmm.
really is what has helped me along the way as well.
Yeah, ambivert. I have to look into that more.
Isn't that neat?
I would always say I can sometimes be an extroverted introvert depending on the
Uh-huh.
environment, but that's probably really ambivert now that you say
Yeah, it
that.
might be, but I
Yeah,
love that too, an extroverted introvert.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm kind of that way too, because like I can be very social with people, but then also that is the last thing I want to do. And I just like, I don't want to be with anyone except for my dog right now.
Yeah, sometimes those environments can be draining, so I try to monitor my own energy.
Yeah.
That helps.
Yeah. We have to protect our energy levels because nobody else is going to do it for us.
You're right. You're
Mm.
right.
we got a question in from the chat, which I love. Do you have any tips on being concise? How to be more concise?
I'd say start with kind of the lowest common denominator, depending on what you want to communicate. Like, what's the basic message? Like, if you were explaining it to a 4-year-old, what would you say? So you
Mm,
start with that base message, and then you build a little bit depending on your audience. Um, but you want to make sure your audience will, again, they don't have to read 2 pages to understand what the message is. So what is the base of what you're trying to communicate, and then build it from there.
yeah. You mentioned, you said, I believe you said it was on 15 on the list was AI and big data.
That's right.
And
Yeah,
AI is a very helpful tool for being more concise
it certainly
for
can
me,
be. Yeah,
because
it
I can
can
ramble
be.
on and then I'll just be like, here's this email, please condense this to 4 sentences. And it does a pretty good job.
Yeah, yeah. The technology is amazing now.
Right? And I use it as a
Yeah.
collaborative partner for me to be more concise, to be more clear. That's a
Hmm.
tool that has been very, very helpful,
Yeah, and people appreciate it. They don't have to wonder
right?
what you meant to say
Yeah,
when you're
what are they?
concise.
Yeah, if you're concise, it's then potentially because you might be giving them an instruction. If you're a leader, if you're their boss, if you're their manager, if you're not concise, then they're just left confused. That's not helpful to anybody on the team.
Yeah, and another tip I would give is, we all recognize when people are clear, concise communicators. You know, when you read something, you get it, you know exactly what you need to do, you know by when, you know who to outreach to with questions. Like, we all know when we've been communicated to well. So try to
Hmm.
emulate that.
Yeah, I love that. Learn from the people around us, witnessing oh, I really understood that. What about that was effective for me and emulating
Exactly.
that.
Exactly.
I love that. Well, we only have just a few minutes left. Are there any other big tips or suggestions that you would make to folks, maybe your fellow introverts out there, on other soft skills or any soft skills that we didn't really dig into yet that you would want to touch on?
So there are several tools on the internet to assess your soft
Hmm.
skills. So I would encourage folks to look into that. I also always tell people to get feedback from what I call your personal board of directors, because people see things in you that you may not see.
Hmm.
So get feedback from people you can trust, in terms of your strengths and your opportunities. And then
Right.
once
Like
you
change your
find out,
face. That's some of the feedback you might get.
fix your face. Don't frown and look mad. Exactly. But I mean, that's good feedback, right?
Yeah. Right.
It's good
Right.
feedback. And then once you know where you have opportunities, then seek out, training, whether it be webinars, in-person training, or if there are colleagues that you know that are good at a particular soft skill, see if you can shadow them. We can learn from the people around us, and then always work to continuously improve. We never get a mastery of our soft skills. We don't get a gold star and you're good, all the soft skills. There's
Right.
always things we can improve on. The world is going to continuously change. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's an ongoing opportunity, right? To keep
it
growing, to
is.
keep learning.
It is. It is. And it is a
Keisha,
superpower. Hopefully, I've
it's a
convinced you.
superpower. That's right. It's not AI, it's our soft skills. That's what a
That's right.
superpower is. Well, Keisha, this has been so great. How can folks
It's
reach
been my
out to you
pleasure.
and keep the conversation going? What's the best way to communicate?
So I'm on LinkedIn, Kesha R. Landrum. You can find me there. Happy to continue this conversation. I love talking about soft skills, talking about how we can improve. So, yeah, find me on
Mm,
LinkedIn.
amazing. Hey, Keisha, in our last 30 seconds, minute here, if you could go back and give yourself one piece of advice when you were starting out on the topic of soft skills and that journey, what would you give yourself?
What would I give myself? I would encourage my younger self to learn how to speak up sooner and that what you say is valuable. There's no silly questions. um, so I would encourage myself to do that earlier on in my career. I think people like folks that ask questions, even if you think the question is silly. And also communicating your thoughts and opinions. Nobody likes facilitating a meeting and nobody says anything. So just
Right.
speaking out more, being a little bit more bold, um,
Mm,
stepping into that a little bit earlier is what I would tell myself.
awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you for being bold today. I appreciate you,
Yeah.
Keisha. This has been
Thank you,
really
Hunter.
wonderful. Yeah.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Oh, likewise. I hope we get to do it again.
Yeah, I would love to.
Okay.
Take care.
Take care now. Bye bye.
Bye bye.